See, I can now. Call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Ellsworth City Council, Monday, September 17th, 2018. All councilors are present. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Did you hear the feedback?
Yeah. Item 3, Rules of Order. We run these meetings under Robert's Rules of Orders and any other rules and procedures adopted at the November 2017 organizational meeting. Also, at this time, I'd like to ask if you have any phones, pages, any other electronic devices, if you'd put them on silent, mute, off, whatever. Thank you. Item 4, adoption of minutes from the following meetings of the Ellsworth City Council, August 20th, 2018, regular meeting.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 5, City Managers Report. Manager Cole.
Okay, it's all about Autumn Gold. As you know, September 20th through the 23rd. Number of events here in Ellsworth. Starting on Friday night, Autumn Gold beer and wine tasting down on the waterfront from 5 to 8. On Saturday, of course, there's the Chowder Fest from 11:30 to 1. There's the 35th Annual Car Show by Home Depot from 8 a.m. registration on. Boat rides on the Union River from the park from 9 to 1 p.m. There is a pancake breakfast sponsored by the Rotary Club from 7 a.m. to 10:30. There is a sidewalk sale in downtown Ellsworth on Saturday, the 22nd, from 9 to 5 p.m. So lots of events, something for everyone. Again, the 20th through the 23rd. I'd also note that before our next regular council meeting, we'll see the close of Harbor Park on October 15th. I would mention for the public's consumption that the city was awarded a grant through the Department of Conservation to put, for the lack of a better term, bubblers in the water to help keep the water moving and avoid freezing, because the city this year had to replace some pilings from ice damage out to the park, and that's happened in the past, and this hopefully will keep it ice-free and save the city some money over the long term. Knowlton Park is scheduled for an October 9th close down, and that's what I have this evening, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 6, committee reports. Any councilors have any committee meetings in the past month that they've attended that they would like to report on? Councilor Moore.
I attended the, what did,
Harbor Commission.
Harbor Commission.
Harbor Commission, yeah, I attended that. It was a lot of fun. The Harbor Master's report included a number of items that were interesting. The Ellsworth Green Plan hosted landscape architect Thomas Rayner. They walked through the park on the 20th and will be given recommendations for park improvements such as shrubbery and walkability of the park. They also reported that it was a very successful concert series this season, and the concerts were very well attended. They also reported that it's been the busiest season on record for transient boaters. The transient boaters are those who come in and pay to stay at the docks or the slips and so forth. They had 10 new boaters, and many of them stayed at least a week or so. So that was very good. They did have a mini disaster on the 23rd of August. a boat submerged while on the float dock. There wasn't any damage to the dock and very minimal fluid spillage. I'm not quite sure what happened to the boat. The harbor master reported that a letter had been sent to the Army Corps of Engineers with the help of Lisa and Marcia regarding the safety concerns of the channel being unnavigable at low tide. And a discussion in the harbor pointed out that when we end up getting the new tanks, we'll be selling diesel fuel, and we're expecting that this will bring an additional number of boats, many of them commercial, hopefully, and it will help to sell to the Army Corps of Engineers the idea that we really do need to have a dredge done. Speaking of autumn goals, Friday night is gonna be a nice night down there, and rumor has it that Channel 7's going to be there. So, okay, Channel 7. And in addition to the Chowder Fest on Saturday, don't forget, from 9 to 1, there are boat rides. It's always a good time. I see some boaters out there now that can't wait to take a whole slew of people. Let me see what else I got for you. Oh, here's a good one. Revenue from all sources so far for the season has passed $28,500, which is, that's a pretty good sum of money for the city treasury. Gas sales came in at 2,144 gallons, which is, for this August, an improvement of 1,000 gallons over last August. That's probably a pretty good amount of stuff. You don't need any more.
Councilor Beetham.
The gas sales, is that attributed to the fact that we now sell gasoline that does not have alcohol in it?
It might,
Just wondering if anybody knew.
yeah, ethanol free. I see a nod in the audience suggesting that it's probably very true.
Councilor Fortier.
Well, an add-on to his great report, and then I'll get into the rec. If any of you want a boat ride down the river that is more than just a beautiful boat ride, go with this man. You learn the history of the river. As a retired historian, his are always the longest treks. We send out the Coast Guard once a year to try to locate him because he hasn't come back yet. And I'm serious. His narration of that river is something to listen to. Rec Commission met.
Oh, that's true.
We're planning the shutdown of the basketball court, shutdown of Demaya Field Complex. We have some information that we may have the YMCA helping us on the ice skating rink this year, which I'd almost pay their fee myself, so I don't have to do it. But things are coming to an end for the season, and we're already talking about the Winter Carnival.
Don't say it.
The Winter Carnival in February. And
You
we've got a
said it.
couple new members coming ahead for us, so we'll welcome them in and get to work. That's it.
Councilor Beetham.
The Solid Waste Committee met during this past month and discussing the recycling program. It's come to light that a lot of the stuff that we're taking at the recycling center is not recyclable. It does not have a marketplace out there. So probably in the next coming month, you're going to see this council will see a recommended reduction in the amount of things that we take, because it's better to take some of the things that we have and burn them because they're Class A fuel than putting them in a landfill, which is the alternative. So there'll be a lot of discussion, there'll be a lot of questions, and hopefully we will have more and more answers. But there will be changes to the recycling program because it's just not sustainable the way it is.
It's inevitable. Any other councilors? Seeing no more takers. Item 7, citizens' comments. We set aside this time for residents to speak to us about items that are not on the agenda. We'll give you 3 minutes. If there's any takers, please come up to the podium, identify yourself, and let us know what you think of whatever the subject matter may be.
So good evening, councilors. I'm Mary Blackstone. I'm here to provide you with another report on the Ellsworth Green Planning process. I provided you with a one-page handout there that contains more than I will actually tell you verbally, and we're certainly happy to answer questions about what you have. I've reported here before, and we've given you updates on several aspects of what we're doing, just as a reminder. This is a citizens initiative that developed in January of 2017 with a vision that Ellsworth would become a model green community. And our mandate is to develop a phased plan that will make it possible for the community to realize that goal. The target date for creating or releasing the plan to the community for review is June 2019. Tonight I wanted to focus on the extent of our volunteer contributions, as well as the important contribution that the city has made at that level. We have an 18-person steering committee. I think that's enlarged since the last time I reported to you. And we have a good array of professional expertise that is informing the process, as well as individuals who are representing organizations that have agreed to not only be part of the process of creating the plan, but also be part of the process of implementing it. We're very grateful for City Councilor Gary Fortier's contribution at that level, and also Michelle Gagnon, the city planner. And that group of people is really just steering a process which involves, at this point now, 12 subcommittees. The membership on those committees is 100+ people. And I've outlined there some of the areas that those subcommittees are focusing on. Those represent the areas that the community has identified as key areas which the plan needs to address if we are to be a model green community. The process of creating the plan is also really looking at a very critical component of it, and that is public input. Those subcommittees and the steering committee are not about representing their personal points of view in a green plan, but rather working very hard to understand what the community thinks should be in such a plan and how they want to contribute to it. So we've held a number of public forums, 12 public forums to date, and they've been really important for engaging and educating the community. They've been the rough average attendance has been around 40 to 50. However, in August, we had Thomas Rayner doing a presentation on Ellsworth's green infrastructure and an approach to it. That packed out the Moore Center. We had people standing at the back. So that gives you a sense of kind of the increasing momentum and interest in this process. In particular, I want to draw your attention to a forum that's coming up on September 19th. You may have seen posters around the community. It's a forum that's focused on planning for sustainable development. We're very happy to have a presentation from the city. I understand that David Cole wasn't able to make that presentation, but I believe that Michelle Gagnon will be making it. It's titled Growing City, Our Vision, Plan, and Challenges. We also have Forrest Bell, who's introducing a build-out study that will be done that he's involved with, essentially projecting forward the kind of build-out that Ellsworth may experience in the next 20 years. I certainly hope that city councilors will feel free to come and participate in that forum. We need to know what you think as much as other members of this community. We've also engaged in a number of selected, I've just listed selected ones here, but a number of small projects. We want to thank the city very much for their role in contributing to these small projects. We've raised over $100,000 on our own to support the green planning process, but obviously the city's engagement in the process has been also really important above and beyond the cash that we've been able to raise through grants. I believe the city was responsible for the very first small step in our process by agreeing to hire an organic lawn care company. And they also were engaged in the Weatherize Ellsworth project, the cardboard cleanup, the roadside cleanup week, and a crosswalk survey, which then led to additional crosswalks being approved. Perhaps the most recent engagement by the city was the participation by our city planner and the head of public works in a green infrastructure workshop that was held by, involved Thomas Rayner while he was here in August. And we really focused in on 3 areas in Ellsworth: Elementary Middle School, Ellsworth High School, and Harbor Park. And we were really delighted to see a press release
Mary?
from
I'm
I just want to thank the
Okay.
city for the press release on Harbor Park and the Riverwalk and the importance of the city having supported that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Also, Mary, I want you to know that you're the first one to speak at that podium. Since we had the speakers put in the room last month, and I got to tell you, I could hear every word you said. The air conditioning is going behind me. Those speakers are working like a charm.
Mr. Chairman, how was it for the public? Could you hear her better? Those were just as important. Yeah, good.
Maybe more so.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there
Jason,
anyone,
Jason, good job.
is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Justin, thank you to the lead.
That means I'm the second person to speak at the podium since the speakers were put in. Councilmen and women, thank you for your time. My presence here this evening actually is...
Excuse me, if we could get your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Judy Blood. I'm a resident of Ellsworth Falls.
All right, thank you.
My presence here this evening is really to raise 2 separate but very related issues. First, I bring concerns regarding the lack of provisions in the permit appeal process. Weber Oil, now Weber Development Corporation, made an application for and was awarded a permit to demolish the Taconic Firehouse community building in Ellsworth Falls. The application and the approval were complete on Monday, September 10th. According to Ellsworth permit language, permit appeals can be filed within 30 days of a permit's approval. An appeal to the permit to demolish was filed Wednesday, September 12th. The problem? There is presently no stipulation for a stay or a rescinding of the permit pending the appeals process. Thus, a potentially irreversible situation exists, and as far as I know, still remains. I emailed my concern regarding this potentially irreversible situation to all council members and to the city manager, David Cole, on Wednesday, September 12th. As of late Friday, there had been no resolution to the problem. An appeal process is useless if a building can be demolished before an appeal is heard. The right to a fair appeal remains in jeopardy. Which brings me to my second purpose, the reason for my appeal. The building in question was offered for purchase by the City of Ellsworth through a request for proposals process. Weber Oil, now Weber Development Corporation, presented the successful proposal, offering $5,000 for the building and the land on which it sits. Permission to demolish the Ellsworth Falls Taconic Firehouse, or Ellsworth Falls Community Building, is in direct violation of the request for proposals from the City of Ellsworth and in violation of the successful proposal from Weber Oil and Gas. I have discussed the situation with Weber, the code office, the planning office, and now with you. Anyone could have come up with $5,000 and left the building to deteriorate. I trust that was not the intent of the city, else they could have done that themselves. Behind me sit many like-minded taxpayers and residents of this city. In your hands are petitions with over 400 signatures asking that you, as a council, do the right but difficult thing and hold Weber Oil responsible to live up to the words in their proposal, or to put it in the hands of someone who will. And I thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Rebecca Maddox-Wilbur. I too am here for the same reason. I was in these chambers back through the discussions where there was a very substantial number of people from Ellsworth Falls area, from the Union Congregational Church and beyond, that spent a great deal of time through many meetings expressing their objection to the destruction of the building. At the time, the city of Ellsworth did not want to continue to maintain it, but after extensive discussion with the community and the objections heard, undertook a different route, which was to put together a request for proposals detailing stipulations, including that the building would not be altered from its original purpose in a significant way, and any changes would have to be approved by the city of Ellsworth, and that it would be preserved and restored. And there were particular items that were listed and agreed to by Weber. It is my belief that the people sitting in your seats at that time put that together in good faith, stipulating protections for a reason, and that Weber detailed their agreement to do that in the proposal that was awarded to them. It seems that things over time, it's 13 years, can get lost. Counselors come and go. Perhaps that file has never been seen by many people, but we have copies of all these documents and I know them to be true. So I'm here to ask you as stewards, to the counselors that came before who made these decisions, that acted on behalf of the citizens of Ellsworth who came in substantial numbers, to please stand up to Weber, look through that, and hold them accountable to the agreements that they made. And if they are not willing or able, they should legally and morally turn that building over to someone who will. And there have been many people since we organized our group who have said, I would like to buy the building, I will do that job. It's not for a lack of interest that that building is in jeopardy. Weber has no right to destroy the building, and I am asking all of you to read back through those materials and to call them to task for this unacceptable act. Thank you.
Terry, can we hold off on dispersing those?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's pictures in there.
Yeah.
I'm Terry Weed Cormier. I am the president of the Ellsworth Historical Society here in Ellsworth. I grew up here, lived here forever. I am here this evening to show our support for the saving of the historic Taconic Firehouse in Ellsworth Falls, which we have learned that a demo permit has been issued for. I'm sharing with you and this, some photographs from the collection of the late Darlene Springer, who was, as you know, one of our members and an avid supporter of our local history and preserving our past. I've also previously sent to you via email a few photos of the Taconic Firehouse and the men who were part of the Taconic Host Fire Company. This photo, which is in that, shows the, a picture. It's a 1946 photo from the air of Ellsworth Falls, and it shows the Taconic building. It's there. It's it was one of Darlene's, so, which shows the community of the falls, which was little changed from its earlier days in 1946. Ellsworth Falls was formed early on and was the center of the community with many lumber mills along the river. Sadly, the mills were lost to time, as so many other historic buildings in the area. The Ellsworth Falls School, the corner store, and so many other homes and old business buildings have been lost to development and time, as many of us remember those buildings. The land referred to in the deeds at the Hancock County Registry of Deeds as the Ellsworth Meeting House lot was given to the city in 1888 by Robert Jerry. Shortly after, the Taconic Firehouse was built in 1889. The firehouse held the Taconic bumper, and the firemen met there. There was a bell tower that alerted the town to fire, and the Taconic Hose Company would jump to action. That time frame was very important to the city of Ellsworth, as it was seeing great growth in the community. The Falls community was a large one, with many important early families of Ellsworth, and families that are still there today. I've been told by Councilor Fortier that the bell still exists, so we'd love to see it. It would not be wonderful to see it back in its place and to see the building once again part of the community and used it was meant to be as a meeting house. We, the Ellsworth Historical Society, appeal to you, the members of the council, not to allow the demolition of this historic building. We assure that with your support, the town will not lose another building that can be saved, just as the county courthouse buildings on Bridge Hill and our Brian E. Moore School. There is a way to use our buildings for today and to preserve our history for our children. Please show your community that our history matters and this building matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Good evening, I'm Spencer Patterson King, and I want to thank you for your work on this council, as I know you all spend a great deal of time working to improve the city, and I think everyone here or watching is likewise invested in our success. I think an important part of recognizing Ellsworth's place in our state and our opportunities for growth is recognizing Ellsworth history and the history we choose to promote, which is why I would like to again remind the council about the possibility of recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day in lieu of Columbus Day. I've collected a few signatures from some other people interested in sharing a history that we can be proud of. Molly and Dana would like to send her regrets that she was unable to attend tonight due to a family concern, but asked me to read a short statement from the Penobscot Nation. On behalf of the Penobscot Nation, I want to express profound gratitude for the Citizens Initiative before your council this evening. As you may or may not know, many towns and cities in the state and country are making the change from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day in a move to truly honor the original inhabitants of this great land. Christopher Columbus never set foot here, yet you have descendants of the very people that cared for and lived off the earth here for thousands of years. Making this change corrects so much about what we choose to honor. Columbus, while a huge contributor to history, is a flawed figure and should be seen as such instead of regarded as a hero or founder of America. He was held as a war criminal for the atrocities he committed against Indigenous people, which he saw as beautiful things but less than human and nothing more than slaves and animals. Columbus is the symbol of the beginning of the attempted genocide of Indigenous people in our homeland. Our ancestors lived through a systemic and sophisticated attack on our people through theft of lives, ancestors, children, culture, and ways of life. By having a day designated to celebrate Columbus, you're dishonoring what our ancestors who sacrificed so much that we can still be here and have what we have left of our country and strength. We owe it to them to take a stand and lend our voice to this important movement. We are still here. We are our ancestors' dream come true. It is important to take this day back and rename it instead of celebrating dual holidays, because it is taking the stance that we do honor the origins of our country and that we choose not to honor the attempted demise of Indigenous people. Symbols matter, names matter, and in a time of racial division and a lack of understanding that can lead to fear and tension, compassion matters. You do not have to make this change. However, part of what will truly keep America great is being good neighbors to those that we may have differences with and don't fully understand but acknowledge our shared humanity. We can look each other in the eyes and realize that as human beings, we have so many similar wants, hopes, dreams, fears, and values. I'm asking you to be a good neighbor in a time when kindness and empathy are often in short supply. I hope these words have spoken to your mind and make you understand further why we celebrate this change when it is made. But more than that, I hope I have spoken to your heart. All my relations, Molly and Dana, Ambassador, Penobscot Nation.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this evening? Seeing no more takers, we'll move on. Item 8, presentation of awards. First one this evening is Sandra Abbott for 10 years of service with the Ellsworth Public Library.
Turn around, look at the crowd. That's where the camera is.
Sandra, the City of Ellsworth proudly presents this certificate of service to you in recognition of your 10 years of service to the Ellsworth Public Library in your various capacities, from adult services and circulation librarian and current capacity as assistant director. Your devotion to duty and loyalty to the community have contributed to the improvement of the City of Ellsworth. Presented this 17th day of September 2018, David A. Cole, City Manager, and Heidi Noel Brindle, City Clerk. Next is Rick Roberts, who I don't see here tonight. It's for 20 years of service with the Ellsworth Police Department. Following him, James Rushmore for 5 years of service as the Facilities Assistant at Ellsworth City Hall. James is also someplace out with Rick, maybe.
Probably in the building somewhere.
Could very well be. Next, a couple of special ones to me. The first one, a very special posthumous award to Darrell Wilson for 11 years of service as a planning board member. His wife, Jane Freeman, is here this evening. Jane, if you would come up, please. Before I read this, the reason I say it's special to me, when I first started serving the City of Ellsworth, it was on the planning board. The beginning of the very first meeting, I was very nervous. I wasn't sure what I had gotten myself into, and he came up to me, introduced himself, and really led me for the many, many meetings after that. Very special. In grateful recognition of Darrell Wilson for 11 years of dedicated volunteer service to the Ellsworth Planning Board, 2007 to 2018. Your leadership, wisdom, and thoughtful actions contributed to making Ellsworth a better place. Presented September 17th, 2018.
He was always the voice of judgment and responsibility on that board.
He
Because
was.
he kept you focused. I watched a lot of those meetings and
Yeah. Well, today is also Constitution Day.
thank you. Take care.
There's one more award this evening. Madam Clerk Grindle. You can't avoid me. Heidi Noel Grindle was honored with the title of Clerk of the Year by the Maine Town and City Clerks Association earlier this week. Last week. She had no idea.
She
It was very much a surprise to her. The whole city, the city staff, the council, everybody here in this building is so extremely proud of you. Congratulations.
It's really an honor to receive that, and I appreciate the council and the citizens and the staff present and past for making me a stronger person and a stronger clerk. Thank you very much.
And you can write your minutes over what you said any way you want.
She does anyway.
You lying, we'll swear to it.
Except for the cash donation.
I think
Item
she-
9,
I think she's gonna write in there that this award comes with a raise, I'm not sure.
under unfinished business, item 9, council order number 081815, discussion and possible action on emergency medical services and educational opportunities for Ellsworth public safety personnel. Originally sponsored by me last month, it was tabled at the August 20th, 2018 council meeting. Councilor Beetham, you were a member of this committee.
Yes, it was. I would like to move to take this off the table, and I'd like to reserve the right to speak first.
You want a second on that?
Yes, please.
I would second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Discussion, sir.
I believe that this needs to be addressed in some way, and I feel I have a way of addressing it that would be beneficial to all parties. So that's why I'm asking to take it off the table tonight.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
At the, during the meetings we had on these subjects, we discussed a lot of information, and we brought forth the recognition that EMS needs to be vetted, and it needs to have public input. It needs to have a lot more input to the council, and to do that, is very important to do it in a timely fashion. The other thing was the emergency medical services, the licensing and education. That's something that is part of our fire department and maybe even our police department, and that also needs to be brought forth, talked about, and decided which direction this council would like to have it go. Now, we can leave it on the table and nothing happens, and we will, or somebody will, get to March and say, oh, what are we supposed to do with this? Because we haven't talked about it, because it's happened before. What I am proposing, I move that tonight, the chairman sets a workshop for the emergency medical services and education to develop a plan and a direction for the city of Ellsworth. Secondly, I propose separately a public workshop on the EMS portion of it to include all of the information that has been discussed about in committee, and to try to get direction as to which way the council would like to go. It was obvious that that's the end of the motion. Good, right there. And it was obvious at the last meeting that this needs to be done. And I feel that.
So he can keep talking, Mr. Chairman, I'll second his motion. Continue, sir.
No, that's it. I mean, it needs to go before the public, it needs to go before the council, so that it's just not buried, and then when it's really important to be able to make a decision on it, and be able to budget it, because it's all budgeting. It's something that's gonna come before you next spring and say, oh, what are we going to do? How much is it gonna cost? This way you know ahead of time where you're going, approximately what it will cost, and you'll be able to deal with it, whether it's out of surplus, whether it's out of the regular budget. It's very important to have it done prior to budget season. And I feel that it's gonna take at least probably 2 sessions in the EMS portion of it, just to vet it. So, there you have it.
Thank you very much. Councilor Fortier.
And that does exactly what my request was for the August meeting. I asked for 2 separate agenda items and was assured by you that we'd be able to discuss them both and act separately on both of them. We didn't get that done, so I applaud Steve for coming up with this idea, and I will support it.
Any other comments? Councilor Hamilton.
So I appreciate it, and it's exactly what I think is warranted in terms of, as we said last time, it's a very complex issue, and it has ramifications one way or the other in terms of safety of our residents, and what kind of system we should have in the city. And so having input of residents is extremely important. I think it will be important at those workshops to understand and dive into some of the nuances of the proposals. To what degree would the city be involved in EMS? What does that look like? What are the ramifications? So that we understand it, so we can make an informed decision and not just rush to something, because it is complex. And I also agree with the fact that planning around budgets is imperative. We need to be able to plan and prioritize issues, and we can't do that if we take issues like this piecemeal and try to make decisions throughout the year in advance or after a budget's been passed. We need to include it to be able to make decisions about where we want to move forward with, what are the priority items. So I think this is a good plan and certainly gets us where we need to be with this issue.
Thank you. Any more discussion, councilors? We have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor? Unanimous. Councilor Beetham, thank you very much. On the new business, the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Unless there's any items that any council would like removed tonight, we'll proceed on this. Item 10, Council Order Number 091800, request of the city clerk for appointment of wardens and ward clerks for the 4 voting districts within the city of Ellsworth for the November 6th, 2018 State of Maine general and referendum elections and City of Ellsworth municipal election. Item 11, Council Order Number 091801, request of the city clerk for approval on the time polling places open for the November 6th, 2018 State of Maine general and referendum elections and City of Ellsworth municipal election as 8 a.m. Council Order Number 091802, request of the Ellsworth Recreation Commission to appoint Nicholas Turner to the City of Ellsworth Recreation Commission as a regular member, term to expire June 30th, 2020. And item 13, Council Order Number 091803, request of the Ellsworth Recreation Commission to appoint Michael Wade to the City of Ellsworth Recreation Commission as a regular member, term to expire June 30th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous? Item 14, public hearing and action on the applications for the following licenses. We have a number of them tonight. First off is, first of all, is everything all set on all of these, Madam Clerk? Thank you. First off is Hain Lee Incorporated, DBA China Hill Restaurant, 301 High Street, for renewal of a city Class B license, victualler, liquor and amusement, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 1, 2, 3, and 4 malt, spiritus, vinous liquor license. This is a public hearing. If there's any comments, would you please come up to the podium, state your name, and let us know. Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous? Over Easy, Inc., DBA Sylvia's Cafe, 248 State Street, Suite Number 8 at the Mill Mall, for renewal of a city Class C license, victualler and license and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 3 and 4 malt and vinous liquor license. It's a public hearing for Over Easy. Any comments? Public hearing is closed. Councilors.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor? Unanimous? Joseph A. Lusardi, DBA Maine Organic Therapy, 3 Myrick Street, Suite B, for renewal of a medical marijuana dispensary license, including a city victualler license. Opening the public hearing for any comments. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Councilors.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor? Unanimous? ARG Incorporated. DBA Pat's Pizza, 396 High Street, for renewal of a city Class C license, victualler and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 1, 2, 3, and 4 malt, spiritus, and vinous liquor license. Public hearing is open for any comments. Public hearing is closed.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Provender LLC, DBA Provender, 112 Main Street, for renewal of a city Class C license, victualler and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant Class 1, 2, 3, and 4 malt, spiritus, and vinous liquor license. Public hearing is open for this application. Seeing no comment, public hearing is closed.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous? And lastly, Eastwood Bowling Lanes, Inc., DBA Acadia Bowling Bar and Grill, 25 Eastwood Lanes, for a new city Class B license, victualler, liquor, and arcade, and a new state restaurant Class 3 and 4 malt and vinous liquor license. Seeing as to how this is a new license, is there a representative present? Yes, sir. If you would state your name, please, sir.
My name is Paul Kudlik. I'm the manager of the Bar and Grill.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. If there's any comment on this license application? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Councilors,
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Wait a sec, one question. The
Yes, sir.
application actually lists you as owner, not as manager. It lists Ben Patton as manager.
Okay, all right,
So- But you are the owner?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was just a discrepancy there. I wanted-
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Last time you need to do that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Item 15, Council Order Number 091804, request of the Public Works Director to award a bid for the Harbor Tank Upgrade Project and authorize the city manager to sign all necessary agreements.
Good evening, councilors. Lisa Seklich, Public Works Director. So the Harbor Fuel Tank Improvement Project, on September 5th, 2018, a bid opening was held for the Harbor Tank Improvement Project. 2 bids were received, but neither was a successful bid, as one was received 5 minutes late and the second did not submit the required bid bond. The received bids were also significantly over the project estimated cost, and so at this time, I am recommending to reject all bids for this project. If the council moves to approve this recommendation, the following motion is suggested. Move to reject bids for the Harbor Tank Improvement Project.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Council Beetham.
What is going, is this gonna be sent back for, value engineering? What's the,
The idea is we're gonna look at some other options, to, potentially lessen the costs, look at some possible date changes for when the work will be allowed, restructure the project and put it back out to bid.
Could add to
Yes, sir.
that, recently on a trip to Augusta, I stopped by the DOT and met with the Director of Intermodal Transportation who oversees this project. They just tend to be complicated anytime you get near the water. I agree with our Public Works Director. It was the risk in terms of delivery time, along with perhaps some of the design issues, I think, added to the increased cost. It may be that as a partnership, we at DOT may have to increase our participation in the project as well. We're looking to find a balance there and get this project done. We'll proceed accordingly and keep you posted. And DOT, by the way, is very supportive. They want to work with us and figure out and get this done.
Thank you.
did you get a second?
Councilor.
Move to reject the bids, unless it's been already moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Further discussion?
I thought I had already moved.
Just making sure.
And he seconded it. As soon as she got done reading, I said, so move, Mr. Chairman. Doesn't matter how long it gets done.
That's right, go to a vote.
All those in favor?
On either motion, it doesn't matter.
Unanimous. Item 16, Council Order Number 091805, request the Public Works Director to award a bid for mineral screening and authorize the city manager to sign all necessary agreements.
Good evening, I'm
Lisa,
still
you're
here.
still here.
On Tuesday, September 11th, 2018, the city of Ellsworth accepted bids for mineral screening and riprap supply. 3 RFPs were requested and 2 bids were received. You'll see the following is a summary of the bids. Mineral screening is the excavation of gravel through a screen filter in order to make sand to mix with the salts that we use on the city roads in the winter months. I'm recommending that the bid be awarded to RF Jordan and Sons. They were the low bidder for the entire project as grouped. And so if the council accepts this motion, it's moved to approve the bid for mineral screening and riprap supply to RF Jordan and Sons Construction at a rate of $2.90 per cubic yard for screening city sand and $13 per cubic yard for riprap supply. The city also reserves the right to order sand screened from January through April 2018 at a price of $3.75 per cubic yard, and to allow the contractor to purchase the tailings that are greater than 3 inches at a rate of $1 a cubic yard.
Do you want us to read the motion or just move approve? What do you want, Heidi?
No, read the motion because it has the prices in it, please.
So I move to approve the bid for mineral screening and riprap supply to R.F. Jordan and Sons Construction at the rate of $2.90 per cubic yard for screening city sand and,
Forget the last zero.
all right then, $13 per cubic yard for riprap. The city also reserves the right to order sand screened from January through April 2018 at a price of $3.75 per cubic yard and to allow the contractor to purchase the tailings that are greater than 3 inches at a price of $1 per cubic yard.
Second.
Councilor Fortier.
And I'll be nice, I won't make a dirty comment about this, but I think we ought to change that to January and April 2019.
Mm.
Those
Oh,
dates,
yes.
those dates have already gone by.
They have gone by. You're absolutely right.
Too
So would you
grammatically
accept that as a friendly
I would
amendment?
love your friendly amendment,
Clarify.
Gary.
Is that the
Absolutely.
way back? The way back machine.
And errors and omissions
Right.
amendment.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous? And Council, I just want you to know that riprap, kind of akin to hip-hop. It's music. Just in case you were wondering what it was.
She thought
I'm
it was riff-raff.
familiar.
Riff-raff.
She was looking at me and said riff-raff.
Is that rock music?
Akin to it, yeah.
I think Councilor Shea called them drunks and bums, didn't he?
13,000.
Moving on. Item 17, Council Order Number 091806, request of the Public Works Director to award a bid for the Green Lake Boat Launch Extension Project and authorize the city manager to sign all necessary agreements. You're up.
Still here. On Friday, September 14th, the Public Works Director and the city's water department opened bids for the extension of the Green Lake boat launch. 4 bids were requested and only 1 bid was received. The lone bid was from R.F. Jordan for a lump sum of $19,800, which was in the RFP that it be a lump sum complete project. The majority of this project is being funded by a $15,000 grant from the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, Bureau of Parks and Lands. It is also being helped along with a grant from the department's Boating Facilities Division, which will supply the concrete planks to be installed at the boat launch. The remainder of the required funding will come from monies, or the part of the request is that we take some monies from the Branch Lake Boat Launch Capital Improvement Fund that has currently been sitting for several years with an available balance of over $22,000. We are also requesting to use some of these monies to purchase 2 additional floats and a gangway / bridge to replace the beach access bridge that is currently in place at the Green Lake Boat Launch Facility. The total to be moved from the Branch Lake Fund to this project would not exceed $12,000.
Councilor Hudson.
Move to approve the request of the Public Works Director to award the bid for the Green Lake Boat Launch Extension Project to R.F. Jordan for a lump sum price of $19,800 and to move the required funds to upgrade the boat launch facility from the Branch Lake Boat Launch Capital Improvement Fund 9090900 TAC 59040 in an amount not to exceed $12,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Three for three.
Very unanimous.
Item 18, Council Order Number 091807, request of the Deputy City Manager to award the bid for the Alexis Way construction project and to authorize the City Manager to sign all necessary agreements.
Mr. Chair, in order to give the the Public Works Director a second to take a breath, and in the absence of the Deputy City Manager, as you know, this project had gone out to bid last year and all bids were rejected at the time. It was redesigned and taken out this fall. The Public Works Director and of course the project engineers here tonight can address the bids, but the long and the short of it is this is a project where The cost of the project will be paid for through a special assessment district. The residents of that street participating will pay it back over a 5-year period. We will initially borrow the money as part of one of our borrowings, but it'll be paid back through those means. And the motion tonight assumes, if you accept this bid, that it's subject to reaffirmation by the residents that they want to go through with the new numbers, because this is higher, somewhat higher, I think somewhere in the $5,000 range than the original cost estimate. And with that, Public Works Director Seklich, if you could go over the bids and the winning bid.
Yep. So, we sent out bids to, sorry, I'm looking at this. So we solicited bids for improvements. We requested 5 contractors bid. We received 3 bids. The bids range from $123,779 to about $130,000. We are recommending that the council award the contract to KJ Dugas Construction, who was the low bidder, at $123,779.35.
Councilor Hamilton.
A couple of questions, just in terms of the agreement with the residents. If we're borrowing, what about the interest costs?
It's imputed into the borrowing costs, so they would actually pay the amount that we borrow. In talking to the deputy city manager about this, we have a bond anticipation note that's going to be converted in November, and assuming this gets done in time, we can roll that into that bond. Or there's a second one that's not due till next year that could be rolled into that. But she was confident, cash flow wise, either way, we can carry it until it's put out in a bond. And the interest, all the interest plus legal and engineering costs would be recovered in the process as well.
And then the second question is, in the motion, do we need to reference anything around that if the property is sold, that the agreement will convey to the new owners, or is that?
It's in, I believe it's in the agreement, it runs with the property, rather than, the individuals involved, but we will double check that and get a copy of the agreement out to you before it's agreed or executed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Hudson.
I move to award the bid for Lexus Way road work to KJ Dugas Construction for $123,779.35 to bring the road up to city standards, under the condition that the residents of the subdivision reaffirm their agreement to pay the bid price under a special tax assessment.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Councilor
One quick
Forde.
question, do we take ownership of the road prior to construction or after it's done?
I think it's after.
After?
isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, when it's met, except, but of course, we're financing it, so we do have some risk, but it's accepted once it's determined by our engineers that meets city standards.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
And the reason I brought that up, Mr. Chairman, is it gives the people out there time to change all their addresses from Alexis Way, which is a private road, to Alexis Street or Alexis Road, which denotes a public
Avenue.
under E911 license.
I'm not sure that that's been determined yet,
No,
but
no.
Could be Lee Jock.
Hmm?
Could name it Lee Jock.
That's taken.
Sorry. Moving on, item 19, council order number 091808, request of the city manager for authorization to prepare and execute necessary easements related to the Ellsworth American property located at Printing House Square.
yes. Mr. Chair, council members, I know you're familiar with this transaction because you've lived it, some of you for 25 years, but for purposes of the public that's watching in tonight and here in the audience, I'm going to go back just a little bit because it can get quite confusing. In 1992, the city of Ellsworth wanted to see what's now known as the Printing House building, owned by Ellsworth American, built downtown here in Ellsworth, as opposed to going outside of the downtown. So in order to help the Ellsworth American meet the lot coverage ratios that were in play at that time, a portion of the parking lot that the city had historically owned was transferred over to the Ellsworth American. And as you further know, this past summer, that property was given back to the city of Ellsworth because 25 years later it needed to be updated and modernized and upgraded. And under the agreement, even though the Ellsworth American had taken title to that property, it was under the requirement that it be maintained forever as a parking lot and under the supervision of the city and regulation of the city. So for all purposes, it was a city parking lot held, in name only by the Ellsworth American. So that transaction happened and it went back to the city, and that entire parking lot was redeveloped in conjunction with the surrounding private property owners. And I think everybody agrees it's turned out quite nicely. In the process of taking back the property, we did grant to the Ellsworth American an easement for conduit, but what I believe was an oversight, the Ellsworth American did not request the reestablishment of an historic easement that ran out parallel to Main Street, out to Water Street, that connected those two properties that go back 50 years or more. That easement was extinguished when the city transferred the property to the Ellsworth American, or at least that portion of it, back in 1992, because you don't need an easement on your own property. So I view this as an oversight. I view it in good faith that the city should provide or reestablish that historic easement. It's a 10-foot easement. It's on the perimeter of the property facing out towards Main Street, running parallel to Main Street and out to Water Street. So if you grant this, it will put us back to 1992, before the original transaction took place. This would all be subject, of course, to review by the city's attorney, Ed Barra, who handles our real estate matters. But really, it's, like I say, it's a reversion or a reestablishment of an existing easement. It connects their two properties together, which to me is a very reasonable request on their part. And in the process of selling the property, or excuse me, the Ellsworth American and its properties through a holding company of the new owner, it was discovered and the request was made. So that is the proposal. I've got a suggested motion, if you're amenable to going forward with it.
I just want to make a comment. You explained that quite well without looking at your notes, didn't you?
I've lived it the last 6 months.
Councilors, any questions? Is there a motion? Councilor Hudson.
I move to approve the reestablishment of the historic easement as described in the 1966 deed, Book 1009, page 89 and 90, issued by the grantor, Hancock Publishers Company, to the grantee, Ellsworth American Incorporated, and authorize the city manager to execute conveyance of said easement to the Water Street Holdings, subject to review by city attorney.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Item 20, Council Order Number 091809, request the city manager to apply for a grant under the Recreational Trails Program through the state of Maine for the extension of the walkway located at Harbor Park.
Let me start off here, but our city planner, Michelle Gagnon, is here, who, along with Steve Fuller, the assistant planner, prepared the application. Through the Department of Conservation, we can apply under the Recreational Trails Program for up to $50,000. We feel that extending the walkways and reconfiguring the walkways at Harbor Park to connect the traditional park area with the new properties that were afforded us after the decommissioning of the wastewater treatment plant. Makes a lot of sense to connect all the way out to Water Street. Our city planner will go over with you the proposal. It would also involve match on the city's part. You would have two bites at the apple on this project. First, we need your authorization to apply for a grant, and if the grant is awarded, the grant agreement would come back to you again for approval. So this isn't your last say in the matter, but to be competitive, you really need to show a commitment on the city's part to go forward in good faith at this point. And Planner Gagnon, if you could go through the request.
So Steve Fuller has been working on this primarily, but we knew we wanted a trail to go to the most northern point. But what we did is we hired Sam Copeland, who's a landscape architect, to kind of walk the sites with us and give us some idea. And he quickly came with the idea of lifting the pavers on the existing part and repurposing the paver as landing to the amenities across the site, and then paving the whole thing. The idea of paving the trail and providing a actually hard surface walkable area will enable people that may have reduced mobility or wheelchair also access, that are in wheelchair, to access the site in its entire length. We're seeing more and more uses of that park right now, and that's going to maximize the ability of people to use the site and also access both pavilion, the existing one, and the one that is newer at the north end of the property.
Mr. Chair, Council, I would add to this that while we're putting forth, or would be putting forth an application with this concept plan, certainly there's flexibility down the road if we need to make adjustments or it's determined there's a better way to get it done. Also point out that this would require just over $30,000 in match, $30,716 in match. I discussed it with the deputy city manager as to where those funds would come from. Again, until the grant's approved and it comes back to you in the grant agreement, it would be at that stage, sources of those funds would be identified, but there are multiple sources that could come from, and we're confident that will not be an issue, particularly in a situation where we could leverage a $50,000 grant in the city's favor.
Councilor Moore?
I definitely support the application for the grant, but I'd like to go on record saying that I think we should take another look at the sidewalk that goes from the launch ramp to the boat ramp, going down to the docks.
Yep.
With the possibility of maybe even putting in some kind of a railing that could possibly save somebody from going down onto the rocks if they lose their balance.
So the one that's stone dust, you mean, that's existing, where the benches are?
No, you're talking closer.
So we
I'm
just,
talking right in the parking lot. There's a curb, and some of the pavement is very irregular. But
Okay.
there's nothing between the curb and the pavement to help prevent somebody from losing their balance and falling down onto the rocks.
Yeah, Counselor, staff is in the process of pulling together a capital improvements plan led by the deputy city manager, who's meeting with all the different department heads, and certainly we can incorporate it in there and look at it as part of this project as well,
Yeah,
whether
we
whether
discussed
it
part
needs
of
to be
that.
funded through this or some other means.
Correct.
You're not talking, I believe, a large amount of money, but we'll take a look at that.
we maxed out the amount we can ask the
state
funders,
under
which
this
is
program.
$50,000. So that's why we kind of, for the purpose of this scope of work right now, just stay to that part, but it doesn't mean that there's nothing else we can, there's other things we may
Yeah.
want to look at.
It really hurts to fall on those rocks.
Councilor Fortier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've done a few jobs with Sam Copeland. You've got a quality designer there that, but I see an element that's costing you a lot of money, and that's rounded pavers.
We're
On
not
your
running the,
launch pads, your
Oh.
pads and everything, he's got them nicely curved. If you can keep them square, Adam Wilson can replace one. He doesn't need to get a chop saw.
point well taken.
This isn't a Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Point
Let's
well
get
taken.
rid of the curves and stay with full-size, regular pavers that
Yeah.
our people can take care of.
I don't disagree with that. And again, we have the opportunity to adjust this. I've worked in a prior life with this program before, and they want to do the state what's best for the community as well. At least this is a concept plan to go in and present to the state.
Michelle, I have a question. You use the word pave. Any difference between paving and, or using concrete? Is one more?
We're planning to use asphalt right now, as it's the cheapest.
Concrete is quite a bit more expensive.
Is it?
Yeah. But again, I'm sure the state would be amenable if we can find a cost-effective way of doing it. It's functionality that they're looking for.
I wouldn't have had any idea which one was cheaper.
Generally, concrete, just from my own experience, at least in roads, it was twice as expensive as asphalt to do concrete, but it lasted longer. That
Okay,
was the
you had me
thing.
at twice as expensive.
Right. I'm not sure it's that way on paths, but it is substantially more expensive.
And, Mr. Chairman, it's also, we don't plow or salt this walkway, which is gonna
Yeah.
protect it for the winters down there, so.
They'll be looking for volunteers to snow blow it like they do the ice rink.
I'll give them your number.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Counselor,
I'd love to make a motion, Chairman.
I'd love to hear it.
I move that the Ellsworth City Council first authorize the city manager to apply for the recreational trail development grant from the Bureau of Parks and Lands for the construction of the Ellsworth Harbor Park waterfront walkway extension trail project. And second, to commit a match not to exceed $30,716 from future funding.
I'd second that.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Counselor Hamilton.
I support the concept in terms of submitting for the grant. I think that's, whenever we can leverage that kind of resource that's valuable to the city. I do think it's important, as I stated earlier in another matter, is that $30,000 here, $30,000 there, it adds up, and I think we have to, at that time, really take a look at priorities and what we think we can afford, where we can afford it, and make those kind of decisions so that when this comes back, that certainly is going to be something that I'll raise in terms of how do we plan on paying for it, where does it come from, and put it in that kind of context.
Mr. Chairman, I think the answer to that is if we've committed the funds, we haven't borrowed them, but we score better on the applications. You know that, but I mean for the public.
5 more points.
Yeah, yeah.
If I might add, I could give you 3 suggested areas where we could take it out of tonight, and they, in my mind, would all be justified, but why put ourselves into a box until we get the grant?
No, you can't have anything on the local roads.
It's not that. It's not that.
Until November.
But Councilor Hamilton's comments are well taken, and you're right, 30,000 here, 30,000 there, soon it's real money. But I guess in this case, in terms of prioritization, the leveraging opportunity, the grant opportunity, and frankly, the ability to pull that all together and give it an identity as a single park, I think is an opportunity that's hard to pass up.
On Saturday, I was briefly kidnapped and forced to go to an event in Belfast along the waterfront.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at the crowd that they drew for that. And the first thing that came to my mind was the waterfront here in Ellsworth. We'd be able to do
Yeah.
the very same thing.
Yeah, in Bucksport, Brewer, Bangor, and I can tell you one source of funding for this. We came under budget on the pier repairs down at the harbor, as well as the parking lot project. So in that bond anticipation note, I believe there's more than $30,000, but Deputy City Manager Moat cautioned me to one step at a time. So
Who'd you ever find to pay your ransom?
They gave up.
they gave up.
He was executed.
On Pirates Day.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 21, Council Order Number 091810, discussion on future employee health insurance options and personnel ordinance amendments, sponsored by Councilor Beetham.
Health insurance update is, everybody in City Hall knows, probably the rumors are flying around that we're going to change the health insurance and they're gonna pay more money and they're gonna, all kinds of things. And this is kind of put everything in perspective as to what we're actually doing and the things that we've actually been looking at. And these are just some points that were put together for us so that we could put everybody's mind at ease as to where we're going and how we're trying to get there. Affordability of the health insurance is an issue facing the whole country, and Ellsworth is not exempt from that problem. Currently, the city offers non-union employees a plan known as POSC through the Maine Municipal Association. The city provides 3 categories of coverage: single, employee with child, and family plan. It used to be that the POSC was commonly offered by many municipalities, but now is no longer the case. POSC is an expensive plan because there's no deductibles whatsoever, and the employees do not pay a lot towards the cost of health insurance, but the vast majority of the premiums are paid by the city. Since there's no deductible, the city is essentially paying for all kinds of services that are never used by the employees. So that what's happening is we're paying for these services that are not being used. We're trying to provide a good quality insurance and affordable health care to the employees, the city has researched available options, and the city is now considering switching to the from the POSC plan to a more moderately priced PPO 2500 plan. This is not cast in stone, it's not done deal, it's just what we're looking at. The city would have 3 categories, just as they do now: single, employee and child, and family. The 2 plans provide similar treatment coverage. The POSC coverage is at 90 or 100% depending on the service. The PPO 2500 provides coverage at 80% or 100% depending on the service. The primary difference between the 2 plans is an addition of a deductible. Under the existing POSC plan, there is no deductible. Employees have a maximum out-of-pocket expense of $1,500. The single plan, for the single plan, the employee plan is $3,000 for the employee and child or family plans. Under the PPO 2500, the plan still has a maximum out-of-pocket expense of $1,500. In the single plan for single plan, and $3,000 for employee and child and family plans. But there's also a deductible of $3,000 for single and $6,000 for employee and child and family. But there will be enough savings from the lower premiums to allow the city to provide the employees with a health reimbursement account, an HRA, to offset these new deductibles. And what will happen is the idea that the city would give each employee An HRA card, each year, the employee would use for up to $3,000 for singles or $6,000 for employees and child or family. And out of pockets. So basically, if they use the whole 3,000 or the whole 6,000, if there's any more than that, it's still not going to be more than what they're responsible for right now. This is a way to keep, so basically the city would be self-insuring the first 3,000 or the first $6,000 of health care. Okay, so theoretically, there is no extra cost to the employee. In fact, under this particular plan, it would be less, because you can even pay your co-pays out of that 3,000 and 6,000. Right now, the co-pays come out of your pocket. So, I mean,
And if they don't use all that money?
if they don't use all that money, the city saves money.
Exactly.
That's what happens. The program was save thousands of dollars per year in lower premiums and would allow us to essentially hold the employee harmless as far as any extra cost is concerned, either through deductions or raises or anything else. We can pretty much hold the employee whole.
Make 'em
So,
whole.
we're trying to put everybody's mind at ease as to what we're trying to do. And this is not cast in stone yet, we're still working on it. I know that there are a lot of people who are saying a lot of different things about health insurance out there. If you have questions, ask the manager, ask the deputy manager, ask me, ask HR, but ask questions, don't just clam up and say, oh, it's gonna cost me more money. Find out for sure, because I think that there's a lot of stuff running around that's not true, and I don't believe that the intent of this council is to hurt anybody as far as, health insurance is concerned. So we're trying to put everybody's mind at ease, and I also wanna let the council know through this little ditty that we are trying to work on it to see where we can go. So it's just as much for the council as, because they're not privy to what we've been doing about health insurance with other entities, the unions, so.
I got a question.
That's good.
The HRA,
Yeah.
is that truly a reimbursement that I have to pay it? Submit a form to get my money back?
No, you're gonna,
Or is it just like my FSA from Eastern Maine,
Yeah,
where I take a credit card with my money on it and
Yeah.
pay my copay right at the doctor's office?
that's.
Or is
to
that
be-
still negotiable?
That's to be determined.
Okay.
that's
How-
being determined, but that's what's on the table right
Yep,
now.
yep.
That's what we're talking about doing.
But ideally, that's what we'd like
Yeah,
to do.
because that right there is a
Ideally.
blessing,
Yeah.
just to walk in, swipe it, and it
So-
comes right out of your
You know,
account.
with a lot of this, if your share of the service that was provided was $1,000, if you have the card, you don't have to front $1,000, it's already there.
Yep. Okay,
So
good.
that's where we're going with it.
Yeah.
And that's what's on the table at this particular time, but
Because the people we're hiring now, and this is something that we've discussed at MMA, on trying to attract younger people, is they want the ease, they want
Yeah.
the online version of that card, so they can go in and check their expenses
Yeah.
and manage their money, and
That-
not have to go to the
Yeah.
office.
That is the goal.
Good.
But we don't want to create an expectation till we know we can deliver on that. I would add, speaking to City Hall employees, I know that this is something the council obviously takes very seriously. It's something as manager and the deputy city manager, we understand this is a sensitive issue and would ask for patience. I've asked the deputy city manager who oversees human resources to be the point person within City Hall, to put forth educational programs, bring the people up from Maine Municipal Association Health Trust. It's not something that you're going to wake up on January 1 and all of a sudden be surprised. That's no one's intention here. So as Councilor Beetham has said, get good information, participate, come to the meetings, and learn about what's being proposed before making any assumptions about it, because again, this is something that affects people's lives, and we understand that.
Are there any other questions?
Good information.
Yes, sir.
So I would just say that I think you're headed in the right direction, and I think when employees are held harmless for what they pay now to go to this plan, the real difference, and I think this is the important distinction, is that now any principal payments that we're making that are not used go to the insurance company.
Right.
Under this plan, it comes back to the city. And when you take that into account, if employees are held harmless and the city sees a return, that's a positive direction.
It seems to be a better deal financially for us and an equally good deal for them compared to the plan they currently have. So what we're looking at essentially is the same services for our employees at a less of a cost for the city.
Yeah.
That's a win-win.
And to add to that, we're in a zero-sum game now. There's only so much in resources, so you're splitting it between employees and, and ultimately the taxpayers. And by assuming some risk, you're actually growing the pie to the benefit of the employees and the city. But looking at the actuarial tables, it's a pretty good bet. Right now, that's a great way to put it, Councilor Hamilton. The house is getting the money now, which is the insurance company. And if you look at the number of communities around the state municipalities that have shifted from POS to PPO programs, there's a reason they're doing that, because it's in the best interest of both the municipalities and their employees. It's the only way to grow the pie.
Anything further?
That's good work. That's good. It's a great
Okay.
start. It's a great
Great.
start.
Councilor, thank you very much. Item 22, Council Order Number 091811, request of the Finance Director to withdraw funds from City Hall Capital Reserve Account for masonry work at City Hall.
Good evening, Jennifer Merchant, Finance Director. There are several brick and masonry projects at City Hall that need repairs. These repairs were submitted as part of a Facilities Manager capital improvement budget, but were removed with the intent to fund these projects through the capital reserve monies. Steve Joyle requested 4 bids from local masonry companies. The lowest proposal for the 3 projects was from Dennis Masonry in the amount of $10,800. Attached are copies of the specific projects in the 4 proposals. We have identified $1,000 in the budget and would ask to withdraw $9,800 from the City Hall Capital Reserve account.
Mr. Chairman, I
Councilors,
think
any-
we had the facilities manager in Finance Committee a
Yes, we
couple of
did.
weeks ago to go over these, to make sure that we didn't have any big questions. I think his recommendation is the appropriate one. And I would move to approve the request of the Finance Director to withdraw $10,800 from the Capitol Hall City Reserve, City Hall Capital Reserve account for masonry work at the Ellsworth City Hall.
Council
Second.
Fortier, we actually wanted to change that to $9,800 instead of $10,800.
So
Sorry.
changed.
We found $1,000 in the budget we could use.
I second that amended.
Friendly amendment.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous? Item 23, Council Order Number 091812, request of the Finance Director to withdraw up to $10,000 from the capital reserve account for contract modifications with WBRC for the combined public safety building concept plan. Manager
Actually,
Cole.
the request of the finance director was the request of the finance director to request, so I will take this one. As you know, we, the city, have been working with WBRC under contract to come up with a concept plan for a combined public safety building, combined in the sense of police and fire. And like any process, that's very complicated, integrating two functions of those types. And now add into the issue of EMS, emergency medical services, which has come to the surface. We had a meeting recently, councilors Blanchett and Hamilton participated, our fire and police chiefs, myself, other staff, along with WBRC and their affiliate consultants. And it's clear that to complete this concept plan, particularly in light of the EMS angle, was going to require more resources. We negotiated, they absorbed, the consultants, a portion of that, and we negotiated down to $9,500 lump sum to complete the plan. Councilor Hamilton negotiated in there a understanding that we would have two sets of plans, one with EMS and one without EMS, because at this point we don't know when the city council, if it approves the project going forward, if it goes to the voters, what the world will bring at that point. So having a concept plan for both scenarios and cost estimates for both scenarios will help policymakers in the future decide whichever road they want to go down. So I'm recommending that you authorize the finance director to withdraw the 90. It's 90. It says up to 10,000 in the approval, or excuse me, in the agenda item, but actually we've negotiated a lump sum of 9,500. So if you could amend the motion or actually my motion's correct. Yeah. So again, $9,500, and we'll go forward and get this completed.
Thank you. Further questions? Councilor?
Just one, Mr. Chair. What is the total that we've got into that already? All the concept plan?
$70,000 was the original contract.
Okay, so we've chewed that up and we need 95 more.
Yep. And again, this was a negotiated item because it's actually more than that 9,500, but in most situations like that, both parties, both the consultant and the customer can have shared responsibility because, we've changed our mind about a few things along the way as well. So I think this gets us there, gets it complete, and I think it's a reasonable middle ground.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything further? Is there a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman. $9,500 from the capital reserve account for contract modifications with WBRC for the combined public safety building concept plans.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Councilor Hamilton.
So I just, comment, kind of echo a little bit. With some of the changes, especially with the EMS concept, having the concepts available with costs and design now versus trying to design something after the fact. So if we designed it with EMS and then there was a decision not to have EMS, would be far more expensive down the road. It also provides the opportunity for residents to have input into this process, be able to see what that looks like. And that's the whole purpose of having the concept plan. This is not a small issue. This is a big decision for the city to make, and having information that's, to make an informed decision, I think is important. This gets us to that endpoint and completes that process.
This is a 100 to 150-year building. So, at
It's
one
hard
chance.
it's hard to unscramble the eggs too if you just go one direction or the other, so having two plans is great.
Matt, do you allow public comment on any of these issues now, or do you close these sessions for public comment?
I'll take your comment.
Can I get up now?
Sure, please.
My name is Stephen Shea. I spoke about this when you went with this concept plan originally. I thought the original plan, David, was to allow to $25,000 for this concept plan. Now you say we've spent 70?
That was the contract amount.
It was?
I think you may be, I think there was funds spent in 2010, that was for my time, on a fire station that might have been in that
Was that
price range.
Yeah.
but-
Previous, okay.
Yeah, but it was 70.
But I think I spoke at the time, but I think you're premature on this, and I'm probably speaking to a dead issue of you people, but you're designing a building, and you haven't made the move to combine the police and the fire departments in a building yet. What you really should be doing is studying your needs and other methods to meet your needs. There are other ways to solve your problems rather than to build one building, an expensive building. And those are the things you should be looking at. I applaud Councilor Beetham's motion on item 9 tonight to make this more transparent. I think what's being done here is you're pushing the city to build this building without any transparency or any public comment. And I would like to see you table this until, now you're making it more complicated because you haven't even decided to go into the emergency medical services, and yet you're spending $10,000.
The whole process, Steve, is very complicated.
It is very complicated.
I've been involved with this for at least a couple of years, and just when you think that you have all the nails sunk into the wood, you look and there's 5 more that you haven't even
Well, that's my
started
point.
to hammer at yet.
That's my point, Mark. You people should be determining which direction it's best for the city to go in to solve your housing problems for these departments. And basically, you're making the assumption you're gonna put them under one roof, and you spend a pile of money.
No assumptions have been made.
Oh, I think you have. When you spend the money to plan this building, you're making the assumption it's gonna be built. Now you're adding to the,
We spent money
Yes.
Looking at a plan to build a public safety building in the Moore School field. Using your, the way you just worded it, we made the assumption we were gonna build it. We didn't. We spent money and we found out that that was not the area where we
I
wanted to go.
guess that's my point. You spend money, and
Yes.
now you're spending more money on things you don't know are gonna materialize. I think you should go back to the drawing board and decide, do you really need one building to house these departments, or can it be done in some other method?
Well, we'll agree to disagree, but I would rather spend 50 cents to find out I don't need to spend $20.
I don't see your point there, man.
So, in other words, I spent money. I spent 50 cents, but I didn't spend $20.
Where would you spend the $20?
On the Moore School field I'm talking about. We spent money looking at a plan there. We did not build there.
Right, now you're spending money to plan a building you may never build.
Isn't every plan that way?
I don't think that's the way private enterprise approaches things. I think that's the way government approaches things. And I think you're making a mistake by adding more. Now you're planning to do emergency medical services, a building you may not build, and you may never assume the emergency medical services. I think you should decide Number one, are you gonna do emergency medical services? You're gonna leave it in private hands. Number two, you should decide, do you need one building for the police and fire departments, or are there more economical ways to do it?
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Fortier.
A very short history lesson. We spent money on the Moore School property on a design, concept design.
Yeah.
When we sold that property, Collier's Nursing Home reimbursed us for that money and gave us Birch Avenue, which we sold and made tons of money on.
Yes, we did.
So I feel comfortable that I can truly say that this $9,500, I can set it aside from the profit off that building and not dig into the taxpayer's pocket. That's why I am comfortable. And with the concept plans both ways, then we have the information to take to the public and say, this is what we're thinking. So I understand, Steve, very good points, but I think we're too far down this road not to finish it.
I agree. Councilor Hamel.
So I just want to respond to that as well in terms of where we're at the point in time, and this isn't pushing it off, I wasn't here for that part, so I'm speaking for myself in terms of if we walk away from completing the design at this point, that's where I see that we've wasted a lot of money. And for an additional $9,500, I think we get concept plans that will allow us to have the discussions you're talking about. For me, it's not a done issue. It doesn't assume that we're moving forward with one direction. It's a concept plan, and ultimately, it's going to be something that will be out to the voters because of the cost. So there will be a lot of public input around this, and I think sometimes it's important to base decisions from a perspective of having information to give the people who are making the decision, in this case voters, the kind of information to make an informed decision. And short of that, if option A, option B, and I'm sure there'll be other options that will come along, people can make that decision. I certainly hear about spending money, but sometimes I do think it's important to look at where you're at in a process to move it along to a place that it has the kind of return. We're far into this. Let's bring it to its conclusion, make something positive out of it, and then use it to have further discussions. And I think that's going to happen. And so that's what I would say is that you'll have plenty of opportunity to weigh in on this.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Come on up to the podium.
I'm Gene Lyons. I'm just wondering where it stands with that 70,000. What do you have to show for it so far?
In terms,
Prints?
I mean, I'll answer the question, but
There must be something
first.
before you spend more money, you know, that you've seen, well, they've gone this far and.
So the process and the project that's been committed is we are engaged in a process that will produce at the end a product. We don't have the product yet. That's what this negotiation is to get it to the end point. And what we will have is a full set of plans and design around what a combined facility would look like with EMS, without EMS, and the cost structures for both. That's what we've contracted for, and that's what we will receive at the end of this.
The year, it's been a year, right, since you gave the 70,000, and they don't have preliminary prints, or?
If I may, I've seen them.
Yes.
It's a work in process.
Yes, they have preliminary design prints, not full concept, but they've done space requirements for everybody. They've put rooms that need to be close to each other on prints. The fire department, the police department have cut them up and started moving them around to look at more efficiencies in their operation. So now what this is gonna do, it's gonna take all those components, put it together in a print for EMS in there or not EMS in there, and then that'll be the finished product.
And the property that you're looking at for it to be placed on is the ball fields, or?
That has not been
This
decided.
is,
That's one of
this
them.
is site neutral. This
Yeah.
doesn't assume any specific site.
Correct.
Is it safe to say, to bring it down to the lowest denominator, that, kind of to answer his question, that we're building on a product that we already have received for the $70,000? Is that a simple way of looking at it?
This is continue the agreement, because we made so many changes downstairs and in the police with space requirements and adjacency, that this would allow them to bring all that information together and produce the concept plans,
Yeah, there's.
with and without.
There's work product here. There's a lot of work product here. This last portion is to meld in the final decisions and bring it together into a plan. And you wanna, I'm sure if you wanted to come by and take a look, I'm sure the
I'd
fire
love to.
chief would, show you, some of the work product.
Deputy Chief Saunders has
Yeah.
possession, I believe, of most of the prints downstairs.
With like what Steven said,
I have participated in meetings, several meetings where we've gone through these plans. Fire, the police, the integration, now EMS. And it's like a three-dimensional game of chess. You're trying to push all these things in together, and decisions have to be made before you can finalize it. This is typical of any design project where you start out at 30% level and go to 50, 70. I'd say we're probably 90% of the way along, approximately right now, and this will help finalize.
I mean, what's the price tag?
That's what they-
$70,000 was the original contract.
No, for the building when it's,
I
I
guess
mean, you
we'll-
must have an idea how much this building's gonna
We'll
cost.
see when the consultant gives the final plan. That's their
No,
job.
we have no idea.
They have no clue yet.
No.
It's not really what we do.
You don't really care
I'm
what
not
it
a
costs
designer.
before.
I'm
We didn't say
sorry?
that.
You don't really care what it costs. I mean, you
Absolutely
guys must have
don't.
put a budget.
Mr. Chair.
Gene, it will go to the voters.
However, I'm just wondering, did you guys set a budget and say, look, we need to work within this parameter, or just build us a building, however big it is, we don't care?
No, I think it's safe to say that that's gonna be a very important decision that'll be made.
But they're designing on a concept, on a number that you guys must have gave them.
No, we did
No.
not.
So nobody gave them a number. You didn't say, look, keep it under 20 million, keep it under 1 million.
No.
No, concept is drawn on space needs of the departments. And then, when the price comes in too much, then we'll start reducing the space.
And they've mentioned nothing about price so
No,
far.
Gene, no.
Just
Hey,
give us more
Gene,
money, we've done
And
nothing with it.
No, you've had your question answered. No, there has been no price. So, it's Counselor.
So I guess I want to make this point, I want to stress it, that there's a decision point in front of us about the request at hand, what we've contracted for in terms of where we go with that. And that's what I'm basing my decision on at this point, is to bring the process to its conclusion, which is about designing a public safety building. And there's a whole different discussion about, should it be one building, two buildings, other options. At this point, what was before them was to develop a plan, an architectural plan for combining that, creating a facility at a neutral site, and that it's evolved and there've been changes. So this $9,500 gets it to the completion where we will get those designs. With the design also comes the cost. And that's not something that was prescribed, and that's what will go out to the voters in terms of being able to look at it to make an informed decision. And if it goes out, the other part of this of having a design, if the voters were to say, yes, we like this option, but it's too much money, what are the options to reduce that plan down to get it to that dollar amount? Or there could be other decisions made. Please don't assume that because there's a vote on getting a plan and a concept plan, that there are decisions that have been made about the future of this facility. And I can't stress enough that the voters will make that final decision around that. That is so important to remember.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And by the looks of it, it might be your decision.
I hope so.
Got another speaker on the right-hand side.
Funny that I'm speaking about fire departments, right? I just have a question for the council, and that is, will the final plan have like the Cadillac plan, the Honda plan, and the Kia plan? Or will it just be, this is the brick and mortar building? So when the plans are done, will there be options? Or will it just be, this is the plan?
I have a Kia. I think it's a really nice car.
I like the Rolls Royce myself.
Address that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's American made.
Yeah.
I like the Rolls Royce myself.
Wait, well,
Well,
this is turning into a,
Workshop.
yeah, into a public workshop, and that's not the road that I'm interested.
Well,
Steve,
Mark, I think you should have had the public workshop before you started this process, but I got one
Steve.
more comment. If you get this $70,000, now it's gonna be $80,000, all you're gonna have is your spatial needs and that stuff. Before you can go to the voters with a project, you've got to have a set of architectural plans, which you're gonna need to spend more money on, or else you're gonna have to go with some assumption of cost, right?
We'll see what comes out.
Well, what are you gonna put before the voters? For a dollar figure, how are you gonna come up with a dollar figure? You're not gonna get it out of a plan you're getting now unless you just make a rough estimate.
May I
You're gonna
answer
have
that
to,
for a
you're
moment?
going to have to go,
Very quickly. Steve, my opinion, and I've been on this quite a bit, is that we get the concept plans, we go to a non-binding referendum. Do you want us to spend more money and get full design plans? This is the initial estimate. And if they say yes, then we've got the mandate of the people to go spend more money for detailed plans that you and your company and others could bid on. I don't want to take that big step to construction.
well, if that's the way you're gonna go at this point in time, Gary, I guess that's the most reasonable thing you can do.
That's my personal opinion.
I guess, you know, if that's what's gonna happen. But what I would hate to see is you go ahead and authorize another expenditure to fully design a building, which was done back in the 60s here in Ellsworth. They spent a pile of money to design Ellsworth High School up on the fairgrounds, then the voters turned it down.
I would never
I wouldn't wanna
support,
see that happen again.
I would never support contracting for construction documents without asking the public,
Okay.
personally.
Well, thank you.
And I'll go on record of
Definitely.
agreeing with that as well.
I think I've reached my point then.
But I'm only gonna be here for 14 months, Steve, so.
just,
You can have it
just
then.
quick comment. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Steve.
My name
Okay. Judy, Blood. Blood. The concept plan is based on present and projected future needs for personnel, equipment, meeting safety standard.
Not an architectural design.
Well, yes, but you were asking if you had different versions of it. It's not,
You can have a metal building, or you can have a brick and mortar building, so
Okay.
I was asking that.
oh, well, that,
'Cause
okay.
that, the cost would be like very different, so I was
Right.
wondering if when it goes to the
Okay.
taxpayers, do they have choice A, choice B, choice C, or whether it's just choice A?
I can't answer that right now. I mean, it will be a single concept plan based on some basis of design. I thought you were getting at something else.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, could we
Yes,
get
sir.
back to the council meeting?
Yes, we can, please. And we are back. Has there been a motion presented? Would someone remind me, please?
Yes, and a
There's
second.
a motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, move to an executive session, discuss
Second.
labor contracts in accordance with MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 405, Paragraph 6D as in David.
All those in favor? Unanimous?
There will be no action after this except to adjourn.